Good morning. This is Strangbo at the California ISO. Thank you for joining us for the Release User Group on February 6, 2024. As a reminder, today's call and webinar will be recorded and published for a limited time. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So we have reintroduced the training slide, and Cynthia Hinman will go ahead and cover that. Cynthia, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thanks, Trang. We have some training coming up next week. There should be a market notice going out about it tomorrow for LPT exports. We're going to be talking about the timeline for submitting those, and I highly encourage anybody who does e-tags, specifically exporting e-tags, to attend this training to make sure that you're on track with the timeline that has been established. That is part of the RSEE Phase 2 Track 2 initiative, but in addition, we are going to have some refresher training, some pre-market sim refresher training on the week of February 19th. I haven't scheduled the date, but it should be in that week because that is the week prior to the market sim. Additionally, there is training coming up for TS and MSP Phase 2 on February 27th from 1 to 3. Again, that is also pre-market sim training. I encourage you, if you have questions prior to those trainings that you want to make sure that we cover, that, excuse me, that you use that pre-market sim release survey link on that slide to send us your questions, and we'll make sure that we cover them during the training. If you're looking for training on other topics, the bottom box there shows you where the Learning Center is located, and we have lots of materials and training available there on all kinds of foundational ISO topics. So I will leave it at that. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Cynthia. So participants are muted upon entry, so you may need to unmute yourself via the WebEx and your audio line, and you can also send a message in the chat. Okay, I don't see any comments or hands raised, Cynthia, so thank you. We're looking forward to these 3 sessions.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll go ahead and move on to the release plan summary. This has not changed since the last release user group 2 weeks ago. So as a reminder, for summer 2024 release, we have the Transmission Service and Market Scheduling Priorities Phase 2 Transmission Exchange Agreement. And then we also have, as part of the settlements summer 2024 release, the ASSOC retroactive enhancement. So that's not an initiative on its own, but due to the significance of that, we wanted to make sure that we maintain visibility of that effort for summer. For Independent 2024, we have RSEE Phase 2 Track 2 for April 2024. We have our URL and IP changes that continue, and then the TR system upgrade. We have hybrid resources, 2C, our CRR system upgrade, KISA website replacement, and then FERC 881. And then looking ahead to 2026 activation, we have DAME and EDAM ISO BA participation rules, as well as the EDAM activation and onboarding, and then also our WEIM onboarding of BHE Montana. Okay, so I'll go through the individual slides for these efforts, and then we'll stop for questions and discussion along the way. So we'll start with summer 2024 release. We didn't have much time to cover this last week, but there have been some updates. So let's take a look here at the milestones, and I'd like to draw your attention to what's bolded here, just recently completed milestones as well as upcoming milestones. So the first item is the external BRS. That was published on January 31st and is available on the release planning page. So please do take a look at that initiative if this, that BRS, if this initiative impacts you, and then start submitting city cases if there are questions about that. And we can have those discussions at the RUG and potentially include any feedback into the training that's coming up as well. So for settlements config guides, we're going to have two milestones. One is the tech doc that's on track for February 12th, and then we'll also have the first draft config file and release component summary later on in February on the 26th. The OASIS tech spec is published and available on the dev site. Okay, and tariff, we have the track 2 filing that is on track for Q1 of this year. And then for BPMs, again, we have PRR 1548 that is open for comments right now through February 13, and that will be covered in the BPM change management meeting on February 20. Then for the production activities, we did the request window, the first request window has closed as of January 31st, and the results were communicated as of yesterday. So you can access that via the links here and or just on the reliability requirements website. Okay, and then I've also added a link here for the 2024 monthly wheeling through priority request dates, due dates for your reference as well. Okay, so a lot of progress here. Does anybody have any questions or comments on TSMSP2? Okay, we do have a couple other slides to support this too. So we have training, as Cynthia mentioned, that's planned for February 27, and then the market simulation is planned to start shortly after that on March 1st through the March 21st for the April 17th go live. And then we have a following market simulation in April for the second phase of this implementation. We do plan to settle on our normal trade dates of Tuesdays and Thursdays through the market simulations. Okay, and then here is just a reference overall timeline for the automated functionality. Okay, all right. So I'm going to move on to transmission exchange agreement. And we'll go to the milestones here. So for the milestones, we did provide the VRS to WAPA, and this is part of our settlements summer 2024 release. So the tech doc in the first draft config file, milestones align with TSMSP2. We do have an upcoming CMRI tech spec that is to add a column to CRN amount to an existing CRN report and API for CMRI. And then we do have BPM changes coming up, and then a market simulation for WAPA that will happen in map stage. And then our production activation is July 15, 2024. Any questions or comments on this one? All right, so I'll move on to ASSOC. So we won't cover this in detail here, but I do have a couple of updates and references that I want to communicate. So this was presented in the settlement use group on January 17th and the 31st. Those have associated recordings and presentations posted that you can refer to for the latest conversation. And also on the last bullet point, we have just a reminder of the market operations BPM change in PRR 1547. That is an initial comment phase right now, and that comment period goes through February 13th, and that'll be covered in the February BPM meeting. So I know that there are discussions on how to have a more in-depth discussion on this. So at this point, I would advise those that are interested to review the BPM and provide comments on the PRR and then engage there. That is the next established discussion about this change, and then we will continue to keep you posted if there are additional meetings and conversations to be had. Okay. Any questions or comments on this change? All right, I'm going to move forward to our independent 2024 releases. So we'll first start with RSEE Phase 2, Track 2. I'll go straight to the milestones here. All right, so for the upcoming milestones, we have under training the low priority transaction or LPT export e-tagging training on February 14, as Cynthia mentioned, along with the refresher training prior to the start of market simulation. And then we plan to resume the market simulation February 26th through March 15 with the production activation April 15. Okay. All right, and do have some additional slides here that we've already covered. Last RUG 2 weeks ago, we did discuss the timeline change or due to the validation of these LPT or export GFP tags against market data. And these are reference slides here, and basically the summary is that with RSEE2 Track 2, to the extent that customers submit pre-day ahead or pre-real-time export GFP e-tags before the market clears, those e-tags will now be denied. And we will cover this in more detail with our SMEs in the training that's set for February 14th next week. So we do look forward to that conversation with customers. And again, if you have specific items that or questions or comments about this that you want covered in the training, then please submit a city and or send a note to do the survey that is earlier on in the presentation on the training slide, and then we will work to incorporate that feedback into this training. All right. Any questions or comments on RSEE2 Track 2? And I want to go back, okay, got it. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the URL and IP changes. So we won't cover this in detail because we did establish a weekly customer forum that's dedicated to this transition of the URL and IP changes for the UIs and the APIs. So the materials are published from the last 2 weeks out there, as well as the recordings. And those that are impacted by this or interested in this effort can join tomorrow's session from 2 to 3 Pacific for any updates and to participate. All right. Any questions or comments on this? Isaac, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Frank. This is Isaac from SC. So I received a customer service notification yesterday regarding the deprecation of the old URL for today. And my understanding is that we still have some outstanding issues regarding using the new URLs for some of the applications, specifically BSAP. And I was wondering, what is that? That, to my understanding, has not been resolved. So, how are we able to implement the change that you're imposing today without resolving those issues first?
So thank you for bringing that up. I should have preempted the conversation with the difference between the UI and the API and maybe covered this slide that talks about the schedule a little bit. So to answer your question, we're not moving forward with that issue. And so we have a separation between the UI and the API cutovers. The notice that you received was a reminder for the old UI URL deprecation. And that includes BSAP too. But I believe that the issues that you're experiencing are with the BSAP API, which you're correct, is that issue is not fully resolved. We are aware of that, and we are continuing to work with you on resolving that for the API prior to the cutover. So we currently don't have a firm target for the API at this time due to that known issue, and then we will work to resolve it and identify a new date. So can you confirm, Isaac, that you are referring to BSAP API?
Yes, that's
okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, so that will be separate. So the notice is for the UI. Okay. So sorry for any panic I might have caused. Okay, so and just to add on to that, this is a summary of the UIs and the APIs for that are impacted by this change, and you'll see a legend there. But basically, if you've received the notice for the UI deprecation that is scheduled for today, you can see here the ones that are impacted. If you look at the UIs for the new and the UI for the old, the ones that will be shutting down are the old UI URLs. Okay. All right, and then I did have a question about the UI deprecation timing for today, and so it is scheduled for this afternoon at 2 to 3 Pacific. So, all right. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward to the transmission register system upgrade. So for this, we had the market simulation window closed. However, we realized that there's still testing going on in MapStage, so we'll continue to support questions that we get. The production activation is set for February 27, and that's the update for today. Does anybody have any questions or comments on TR? All right. Let me go back and just address. Yes.
This is Kevin from PG&E. I do have a questions on the TR. Our team is actually our engineering team is actually trying to redesign about to custom fit the extra layer that Kaiser was providing as a resolution on the download reports. I'm just wondering, like, for the production activation wise, do you have like flexibility on those dates on the 27th of this month? Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't know if it's my headset, but I could get the gist of what you're saying, but it's not very clear. The audio is not very clear for me, but I think that I'm aware of some questions that your organization has about MapStage and that you're still testing there, and then you were asking us about flexibility for the production date. Is that right?
That's correct. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll work with our SMEs to kind of evaluate your issue, and based on the impact that it has, we can definitely work with the project team to discuss the production activation, the production implementation date. So I can't commit to you right now if we could change that, but again, it's going to be based on the impact of your issue, and then the us coordinating with the SMEs and the project team and your organization on that issue.
Okay, I will touch base with you guys, individually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. All right. So I want to take a pause for a moment to address some questions that I'm getting in the chat. So bear with me. Okay. So the production activation date for transmission service and market scheduling priorities, phase 2, there are two, Maxine, there are two dates. One is February 17 for the first phase, and then the second will be end of May deployment for June 1st. Okay. So please let me know if you have additional questions on that. And then, let's see, I addressed that question for the UI deprecation. And then Robert has some comments about the UI link. So Robert, can I reach out to you? I'll reach out to you separately about that. But if you want to send me a note, or you have a city case, you can put that in the chat as well. Okay. All right, good. So, Robert, I do see your detailed question, but I'll work with you offline on that about the UI. All right. Let's go ahead and move forward to Hybrid Resources 2C. Okay, so we had the updated BRS revision in January 4th, and we do have a market simulation that's planned for later on this year for RIMS. And the production activation is set for fall release, or October 1st, 2024. Any questions or comments on this one? All right. Then we'll move on to CRR upgrade. For CRR, we did have our last customer partnership group on January 25, and those materials and recording are there. And the next CPG will be on February 22. And again, those are going to be on Thursdays. And this is the schedule that we went over, and I think the emphasis that we had for the last customer partnership group was that the mock APIs, which are a new deliverable and new feature that we're providing for our APIs, that is available in MapStage for CRR, and we do encourage those that are impacted or interested by CRR's upgrade to take advantage of the mock APIs that are you can get access from the dev site to get a head start on preparation for the market simulation coming up. Okay. And then we continue to cover the CRR topic at the TUG and then at the monthly customer partnership group. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. All right, so let's go on to FERC 881. So we do have an update here. So we will have multiple tracks for this initiative, and the BRS focusing on track 1 for real-time reliability applications is published as of January 30. We do have a production implementation target of April 1st for that track. This here shows just a summary of the 3 different tracks of FERC 881 and the associated timelines. And that's the last slide for 881. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this one? Okay. All right, let's move on to spring 2026 release. We do have several updates for this as well, and we have some additional guest speakers. So for DAME, let's cover some milestones here, some new or recently completed. So for the BRSs, we had version 1.1, which we will touch on the revision summary slides again. And then the team has forecasted another external BRS revision planned for March of 2023. Okay. And then for tariff activities, the draft compliance filing was posted yesterday with a call that is in progress right now. And then the compliance filing is planned for February 16. On January 24, we published the fall 2025 release market simulation plan that includes DAME and EDM. And those are the updates that I have for the milestones. So before we go into the BRS revision updates for 1.1, does anybody have any questions or comments on the milestones? March 2024, you are right. Thank you. I think I'm allowed to make that mistake one more time. Okay. All right, so then I believe Amr is on, and he's, thank you, Amr, for updating the presentation based on the feedback. I can start here, and you can just let me know when you're ready to move forward.
Yeah, I saw that. I was listening. Yeah. All right, heard that.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Frank. So, yep, so we updated. So this is a slide that we reviewed in the last TUG meeting. So we have the list of the changes on the summary level for the BRS 1.1. And then in the next 3 slides, we just break it down by which PRQ is added, deleted, or updated. And also we added, I think we had a request that we add also the trigger or the reason for that changes. So we also add it as a column. So if you can move to the next slide, thanks. So we adopted that format that we have like the section number and we have the change, just we link it by number to the first slide. And then we got the reason for the change with a cleanup, reorganization. All of them, for sure, they are tariff and policy alignment. I mean, they are in compliance, but we just put the one tariff and policy alignment if there is a clear and explicit tariff that we are adhering to. But some of them, we're still adhering with the tariff, but they are not that explicit. So we get some feedback either from participant or the ISO SME to make some changes. And we identify it in that column, the reason for the update. And the next 3 columns, they just show that which PRQ is updated or if there is something new, PRQ is added or is removed. And this one you can, of course, navigate it in the PRS. And I think we have 2 more slides. They just go in through the changes and they just identify the same information.
Thank you, Amr. We really hope that that's helpful. That was, updated based on the feedback that we got from customers at the last RUG. So please take time to review that. And if you do have questions, additional questions or comments, about this BRS, please submit a city case, and then we will review it. We know we have a few city cases that are open for DAME and EDAM BRS questions that the team is working through now, and we'll continue to reach out to the customers for updates on that. Okay, any questions or comments on DAME BRS revisions? All right, thank you so much, Elmer. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move forward to EDAM. Okay, so for EDAM, version 1.2 of this BRS is planned for March 2024. So it is correct there. And similar to DAME, we have a draft compliance filing posting as of yesterday, and then the call to review that is in progress right now, and then the compliance filing itself is planned for February 16th. We do have upcoming tech specs for Cyber, Oasis, CMRI, and PLC that are coming up in February, and then Q1 as reflected here. We did confirm with the team that there's no longer a need for the ALFs or OMS tech specs to be updated, so those have now been reflected as NA. We have BPMs that are coming up, and we still are working through the schedule for those, as well as some additional details or solutions for the BPM information that we can provide. And then for training, we do have that planned, although it's TBD for schedule at this time. For market simulation, the fall 2025 release plan was published January 24, and then we actually did publish the market simulation scenarios for EDAM on January 29 of 2024. So both of those I'll mark as complete. Okay. All right, and before we go and open up for questions, we have the EDAM and DAME activation timeline here for your reference. This material is also being presented in the board meetings this week. And then we have the key EDAM onboarding milestones to date for your reference as well. And again, this will be covered in the board meetings this week. Okay. Any questions or comments on the milestones before we move on to the BRS revisions for 1.1? All right. So Adam, please go ahead and take over when you're ready. Okay, let me find Adam. Are you there?
Sorry, I was double muted.
No problem. I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go through the BRS updates. This is also represented in the red line BRS version 1.1 that's posted on the release planning website. This is really an overview of what's changed. A lot of the red lines that you'll see in that document are clarification, language cleanup, but there are some other items that I'll go through sort of at a high level that are shown in that updated BRS version. So for the master file, section 5.1, we have a few different changes here for tariff policy alignment, as well as to capture ISO SME feedback. This includes signing the attestation for non-participating DR, clarifying that, and electing and making the election for DR inclusion. Some updated requirements on mirroring DA schedules in the WEIN. Model for existing system resources, clarifying that location moves to that DAA's DGAP. Another piece you'll see changed, not just in master file, you'll see this represented in a couple other sections as well, is definition of two different OAT contract types. One we've defined as OAT 1, which receives higher scheduling priority in real time than the day-ahead schedules, while OAT 2 receives equal scheduling priority in real time with day-ahead schedules. All other elements of those contract types are the same. That's the one differentiation between OAT 1 and OAT 2 as we've defined them. There's also some clarifications about how we define the greenhouse gas regulation area, including the association to an intertie with the GHG regulation area. And then there's some other items making sure that we're very clear from DAME that we need to extend in EDAM, for example, the definition of the imbalanced demand hub. And so as you can see on the right, we have the updated new and removed requirements for this. Again, a lot of those that have been updated are more simply language, grammar, et cetera, type of changes to make everything a little clearer. Of course, newer requirements are going to have more of that newer information. And there are updates within those existing requirements that are more substantial. With forecasting, all the changes here were related to demand response. So RDRR, reliability demand response, treated as supply in real time, and some clarifications about the load factor adjustment in the DA forecast, making that a little clearer on how that will be operated. Section 5.3, you'll just see cleanup, no major changes as far as requirements go. For default energy bids in section 5.4, we are making sure that it's clear that the negotiated dev process will be expanded to EDAM. No changes to that process, just that it will be those entities that would like to have a negotiated dev can follow the process that they've used in the past for EDAM. We can go to the next slide. Some more changes in bid and transfer system resource submission. These were all due to feedback and discussions internally. So intertie transactions for imports and exports, just some clarifications there that this will occur at the types of scheduling points, non-WIMBAAs and RTM. That requires the specification of the source sync DGAP in that non-EIM BAA. We will not support transaction ID between EDAM BAAs. The day ahead, we'll use EDAM transfers. For real time, we use dynamic transfers. As we also saw in the master file section, and you'll see some of these repeat themselves because they impact more than one system, is talking about the clarifications for the mirroring of system resources to mirror those day-ahead schedules in real time in the WIM. For day-ahead schedules using the super DGAP and forcing the buyback in RTM in Cyber, we've added some extra examples for how the maximum bid adder will work in Cyber, showing some of the numbers there and how that's going to be calculated. We added a note that we'll be considering resource PMIN for FlexRA. Cyber, I think there was some debate in the past of which system will be reporting the hourly net export transfer out constraint. This will be done in Cyber. That's why you'll see that information. That net export constraint includes the associated confidence factor and reliability margin variables there. And similarly, the EDAM entity will have access to resource and intertie bids in the RSC in Cyber as well. So that information will be presented in Cyber. So moving on to the resource efficiency evaluation, as we mentioned in the forecasting sections, the load factor adjustments for DR, those will be done, how those will be done in the RSC, and reporting the RSC required movement between EDAM BAAs. Just added some more detail on how that will be reported. So another more significant change you'll see from the previous BRS is we've added a fair number of requirements for market power mitigation and how that will be applied to EDAM as well as RUC and some associated changes in real time to make sure everything is aligned. So we have NPM for energy at the BAA level and for a balance reserve up. And then you'll also see in section 5.8 NPM for reliability capacity up. Another piece in the day-ahead market is extending to EDAM BAA the hourly. This is another day-in extension, hourly and balance reserve up and down surplus value and LMP components. I believe that was in there, but adding some more detail on that. So we can go to the next slide. I guess a couple more. No major changes with regards to tagging. In the real-time market, again, you see that mirroring coming up with real-time and day-ahead schedules. And you'll see hour-ahead scheduling priority, HASP, hourly block schedules will revert to RUC schedule if HASP fails. There are a couple requirements like that where we put in that stopgap that wasn't as clearly defined before. You see the market power mitigation level at BAA level for energy in real time, and applying the available balance capacity or ABC. That is a WEAN feature that will apply to EDAM BAA, so making that clear. Looking at the greenhouse gas model, we went in more detail into the loss factor and how that's defined. That's used for the GHG loss calculation. We added some more details about the resource-specific greenhouse gas model and how it's set up, how it works. And that includes some information about the GHG attribution constraint and the GHG net export constraint. In market quality validation, price correction, no major changes here. Just we dug deeper into what needs to be extended to EDAM and called it out more specifically rather than at a higher level in the past version. So that includes resource auxiliary capacity calculations, commitment cost determinations, 5-minute ramp capable portion data calculations, and the use of the integrated forward market MSG configuration as a reference for MLC calculation. Okay, this is the last slide. In settlements, made some clarifications. For example, one of them was when the 16-hour block hub prices that we use are not available, that creating a fallback option to fall back to the most recently available prices. We have some TSR transfer revenue clarifications. Our real-time market resource TSR deviation settlements, and then some tariff alignment, force majeure, indemnity, liability, penalties, good faith negotiations. Those are all items defined in the tariff that we wanted to also call out in the BRS. I'll also add, I believe it's not shown here, but the TRR mechanism that was rejected by FERC has also been removed from this settlement section to be revisited at a later date as our policy team works on making some changes to that element of the policy here. In reporting, we just added some more details for the impacted existing reports and as well as new reports that will need to be created for EDAM. You can expect more details on each name of the reports as we work to compile that and decide where everything best fits in a future version, but there is some more detail there. For FERC reporting, just added some data that we know FERC will want to see, like the demand response load factor adjustments and other DAME-related data that we know FERC will want to see for EDAM entities. Finishing up here, and for outages, we're allowing the EDAM entity to access the market impact tab in WebOMS. We've provided more details about that and how that's going to work. That is a newer access to that tab. So some changes there. And then finally for the market simulation, you just added some more details to the scenarios. There's more details coming out there, but you can still see some more fleshed out information for the market sim preliminary scenarios. One correction, sorry, I might have said the DR for 515, it's the DR load forecast, sorry, adjustment data that's going to FERC. I misspoke there. So that's the overview at a high level. Happy to take questions. I think Trang will have an additional forum for more specific questions, I believe. But if there are some kind of higher level questions on this, if we have time, happy to take those.
Thank you very much, Adam. This was very helpful. So we hope that provides a lot of clarity and value to our customers and consumers of the BRS. So if you don't have questions now, then please review the information, and then you can always submit a city case with BRS questions, and then we'll work through those and respond to you in that way as well. But does anybody have any questions or comments to Adam on this overview? Adam, I don't see any comments in the chat and no hands raised. So we'll go ahead and make sure we publish this latest version, and then and then we'll let you know if there are any questions offline. Thank you so much. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next Spring 2026 effort for EDAM ISO BA Participation Rules Track A. So what's coming up here is that for our filing that we made in November, we did request a FERC response by February 15, 2024. So that is coming up soon. So we'll hopefully be able to mark that up. And then we are working on the BRS publication for this one as well. And so we don't have a target date just yet, but we'll incorporate that, and it's coming soon. All right. So let me go on to the next slide, and for our WEIM onboarding for BHE Montana. So this is our normal WEIM onboarding that follows the milestones and the schedule for our typical onboarding. Okay, so no changes here. Okay, any questions or comments on this? Okay, so I do want to take a moment because I have some messages in the chat, and I wanted to go over those really quickly. And if you do have any other questions or comments, please raise your hand or put a message in the chat, and I'll go through that now. Okay, so on the URL cutover, so I just want to confirm, and I'm sorry if I caused any confusion, but the UI deprecation of the old URLs is planned for today between 2 and 3 Pacific. So what that means is just that the old URLs for the UIs will no longer be available, but we have worked with customers to encourage folks to transition to the new UI URLs as soon as possible. So, and we've also checked on our side and have confirmed any users that have been accessing the old ones to cut over to the new UI URLs. So, so that's just the user interface. The one exception is for TR. So TR's new URL will UI URL will be rolled out during the TRR production implementation that's planned for February 27. Okay, and there is no additional change for the CRR upgrade related to the URL change. And then as far as the API issue that we talked about for the new API URL, so this is something that we're covering and can be referred to in the Application Delivery Resiliency Forum on Wednesdays. So we do have an issue that multiple customers are reporting about some connection resets, and we are pursuing and investigating a couple of different potential causes. Our most recent finding is that it might be related to a buffer that setting on our side that we could adjust to hopefully reduce that issue of the connection resets, but more information will be provided on that at tomorrow's forum. Okay. And then I did get a question about ASSOCC, and so for PG&E, Felda, you have a question about that. So it's planned for the summer 2024 settlements release. Now, I know that there's, so that's for the settlements piece of that, that ASSOCC fix. We have received comments and questions about how the data will show in CMRI and whether or not CMRI will have additional changes to support, validation and shadowing of the ASSOC data. We don't have a conclusion on that yet or a forward plan, but at least for the settlements component of ASSOCC that's planned for the settlement summer 2024 release. Okay. All right. And then Alva, I think you have your hand up. Please go ahead. And you are on mute.
Sorry about that. This is a follow-up to Felda's question. There was the promise of a small initiative on changing the nature of re-examining the mid-cost recovery foregoing on ASSOC, and that was supposed to be done during the first quarter of this year. Is there any word on that in context of this?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Alva. I don't have any more detail on that, but I know this question or something similar might have been brought up in the last settlement user group, which I wasn't able to attend. But I'd like to follow up with you offline for that to get more detail and make sure that we don't have a gap and we answer your questions. But there's nothing that I'm aware of right now, Alva. But I'll follow up with you and Felda on that. Okay.
Yeah, it was in some documents. So, I mean, CAISO did have it listed as one of the things it was going to work on.
Okay. Okay. I'll look back at that because I think that some of your team did provide some supporting information to me offline, but I'll sync up and make sure that we're talking about the same thing, and then we'll get some more information for you. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So just a reminder again, you can see the release user group on the calendar. This is our, on the ISO calendar, this is our schedule for the rest of the year. And then you can contact me or create a city case for a release or market simulation for any additional feedback. Okay. All right, thank you everyone for joining us, and the presentation and recording will be published later today or by tomorrow, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.